Hey, I'm Nicholas Prom.
And I'm Matt from Thrash Mania.
Yeah, and you're watching Heavy Metal Breakdown. Um, Chase won't be joining us this evening. He got called into work, but we will carry on, and we've got a couple of cool albums to talk about. Matt, thank you so much for joining me again.
Yeah, happy to be here. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, oh man, thanks, dude. We love what you do too. We appreciate you, man.
Thanks.
Um, but yeah, let's see. Why don't we just get right into it? We've got a brand new album that just came out a few days ago to talk about. Let's see. Let me pull up that image. We've got NUKEM with their sophomore release, "The Grave Remains," and this came out April 10th of this year on Refining Darkness Records. Uh, yeah, gave the previous album a spin this morning. Really cool, with guest appearances from members of Forbidden and Dark Angel. That doesn't suck. Holy crap.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Classic California.
yeah, love it. Um, but yeah, this is some raging shit. Wow, really like this, Matt. Do you want to take the lead on this?
Sure. So, a couple things. Number one, I appreciate at the very least that they go for quality over quantity. So this is their second album, and I think their first one came out in like 2018.
It's
It's
been a
nice to
while.
see that it's nice to see that they're sort of selective. About what they put out instead of just throwing out a bunch of shit.
Yeah,
Um, One of the things that I really like is that it has like a brighter, more modern production to it, and it doesn't shy away from that trope of, well, modern equals bad. Like I feel like so many people these days want everything to sound like it's still from the 80s, and that modern production is evil and it sounds overproduced, but for what this album was, I thought it was perfect. Um, because it's a little more technical, and so you need that clear production for that to show through.
yeah,
So I think that's actually important. I love the hardcore like style vocal delivery. I kind of like that real pissed off style of vocal delivery,
yeah,
especially with like a classic Bay Area thrash metal sound as well. Um, if I were to have one critique, I love the beginning, like the first song is like a 50-second intro, but like the second, third, fourth song, really good, and then in the middle, it sort of comes into like a more mid-tempo vibe,
yeah,
and I feel like if you have too much mid-tempo, it just doesn't pull you in. And then there's a song. It's like a seventh or eighth song called Empress of Evil, and it just
yeah,
pulls you right back in with some speed and some aggressiveness.
yeah. I like that.
So,
Yeah, and I think that's cool to kind of like go raging full on and like kind of dip the tempo down, kind of like let's catch our breath, and then get back into that high octane shit. So I'm right there with you, Matt. Um, uh, want to touch on a couple of points you made. I agree. I think it is. A lot of people think like, well, new album, new year, gotta crank something out all the time, and it's like, no, it's okay to keep people waiting a few years. As long as you're still out playing live and you're not people aren't forgetting about you.
yeah.
It less is more. It's like I would rather have an absolutely mind blowing album um, every 5 years than have like several ho hum ones like of like every year or so. You know what I mean? Like or like yeah, it's good but not like amazing, that kind of thing. But um, and yeah, I'm so glad you touched on the hardcore vocal delivery because I really think, man, that is what's really bringing the fresh energy into the genre. And I really think like the future of thrash metal is a marriage with the hardcore scene, and I love hearing that approach while still being very true to thrash metal. Um, that's great. And this is just raging shit. Really liked a lot of this. Ransom Acts of Violence. I think they did a video for that one.
Yep.
Tactics of Terror, Curse of the Devil's
Mm.
Bible, um, and Policies of Hate, which I think is the second track.
Policies of Hate.
Great
Yep.
shit. Really, really good. I mean, like, man, Power Trip are finally back in the studio. making a new record. I'm like, man, this is something to this is the kind of stuff that will help tide you over while you're waiting for that. So,
Yeah.
so thank you, Nukem.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
yeah,
Well, and that's the thing, like again about doing the albums like apart from each other instead of on top of each other is when I remember when this was announced because I this was announced a couple months ago and I was like, oh my God, I have to get this another Nukem album. You know what I mean? Whereas like if it comes out every other year, it's like, oh, okay, well, there's another one.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
yeah, it kind of builds this. It builds the suspense a lot more. But this, I feel like this also does a little bit of everything within the thrash metal genre. So like there was a couple riffs, and I would be like, oh man, that kind of reminds me of Testament, and then I would hear another one like, oh man, that kind of reminds me of like Creator or Sodom, and so it does a little bit of everything.
yeah.
And it does enough to stay fresh. Like a lot of the thrash metal albums can get kind of repetitive, kind of derivative, and this does its best to stay fresh.
Yeah, and yeah, I dig that. And there are a lot of bands who are like, well, let's just try to be sound like Slayer, or let's just try to sound like
Yeah.
Exodus or somebody, and like, okay, but it's really nice when I hear something that's like it will remind me of those things, but I don't think it's like somebody's just trying to copy that band because I'm like,
Mm.
those bands have pretty rich discographies already. What are you doing to
Yeah.
make yourself distinct from that? And so, thank
Hmm.
you. I dig that. And yeah, as far as production wise, I guess a lot of people, I agree. Like other people, are like, oh, modern production bad, but you know, there's some really not a lot of 80s production doesn't like serve like the power of or the heaviness of thrash metal very well. Like when a lot of thrash bands got to the major labels, they get like that very kind of thin Alex Perialis production, which is not like it kind of neuters a lot of it. We love those albums and we love those bands and those songs and stuff, but it's like when you really go back down to it, it's like this isn't like that balls out raging like heaviness that you may be like misremembering that it is. Like a lot of
Yeah.
the more like crazy intense thrash metal albums in the 80s are like the ones with the weird production because they're like an independent release. That's the shit that I like to seek out a lot too. And so I don't think what am I trying to say? I think there are bands that are definitely finding a way to create an 80s vibe in a modern production and have that right balance. And I think Nukem is doing that too. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and their musicianship is really well. So I think they have that like the one song at the end is like basically an instrumental
Mm,
where it's just one super long guitar solo. I mean all the guitar solo work is good. The bassist kind of makes himself stand out a little bit. The drummer makes himself stand out a little bit. I mean this is written by like properly good musicians.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you need that modern production
Yeah.
to kind of make all that stand out.
Yeah.
Because the thing
And
about older production is it's so muddy.
yeah, that's true. Um, and I think because in the old days it was hard because of like especially for thrash metal records, bands playing so fast, it's hard to get like that separation and of the distinct parts. So like, oh, I can hear this, the bass, the guitar, the drums, separate from each other. It just kind of gets kind of like mushed. So yes, um, and I want to say I think it's really impressive how beefy this sounds as a three piece. You would think this was four or five guys, like the way this record sounds, and so I'm like, that's very impressive in and of itself.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that's like the big thing that I was kind of thinking with the production is that it makes it so beefy, and that combined with like a thrash metal aesthetic is something that I feel like adds to the genre
Yeah,
because the genre kind of had more of a drier sound to it. And you think of like bands like Pantera kind of added the beefiness to the sound in the 90s, and now then we kind of went with it afterwards.
right.
We're kind of in our second like our second heyday for this in my opinion, and now we have like more modern tools to add to it.
Yeah, And that's a very interesting point, Matt, because like, I remember when in the was it the mid-aughts when the new wave of thrash exploded, and it was like it's really cool that there's all these bands, but a lot of this seemed really silly and samey, and some of it just kind of, or a lot of it kind of missed the mark. It was great that there was a lot of enthusiasm for it, but like think of all those bands that came out, and think of like how many of them are still around. It's a big gap there, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's very cool. Did you have anything else about this record?
Just favorite songs: "Policies of Hate," "Random Acts of Violence," and "Empress of Evil."
Yeah, great ones. I cannot disagree. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, big horns up for NUKEM and the Grave Remains. Hopefully
Yeah.
coming to your town sometime soon. Who knows?
Yeah.
Um,
Hopefully, there's a tour with it. Yeah.
yeah, that'd be great. But yeah, so if we're cool here, why don't we move on to the classic album segment? Um, and this week we have, or this episode, we have Cryptic Slaughter with their third LP, Stream of Consciousness. This was released on August 15th of 1988 on Death Records, which was Metal Blade's hardcore sub-label. Um, and yeah, it's interesting. The first half of Cryptic Slaughter's discography tends to receive a lot of high praise, and then the next two records seem to kind of have mixed reviews. Either people ignore them altogether, or they're like, it's okay, or people are really down on them. I found this album. I like this record. Um, I found it to have a little bit more melody than the previous records, although it's a little looser too. What do you think, Matt?
So when I first saw that you guys picked this, I was thinking to myself, man, I haven't listened to that album in forever. So, you know, like most people under 45, the way I found Cryptic Slaughter was through Convicted and then Money Talks. And then, so I listened to their whole discography. And I think I listened to Stream of Consciousness one time, probably like 25 years ago.
Sure.
And so when you said that you were doing this one, I listened to it a couple times over the last few weeks. And the first thing that came to my mind is like, man, this album was so far ahead of its time.
Ooh.
And I feel like it wasn't appreciated because of the way it mixed the melody with that kind of dirty hardcore punk style. Because one of the first things I did was I went and looked at some of the reviews, and some of the reviews, I remember one of them was like, "Oh, I was waiting for this band to let me down eventually, and here it is with their third album," and I was thinking, I remember, I forget how long ago that review was written, but I was thinking to myself, like, actually, this is probably just a case of it being ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Because when you look into the 90s and you think of bands like Coroner or Watchtower or Realm and stuff like that, where
Oh yeah.
melody mixed with thrash metal was like really appreciated. And this came out in 1988, so I think this was like a couple of years ahead of its time. And I actually think it marries the hardcore punk sound and just overall aesthetic because it still has that kind of garage band
Oh yeah.
feel to it.
Yeah.
But it marries it really well with the melody and the more technical aspects of the genre.
Absolutely. I think more than the first two records, this is a true crossover album. The first,
Yes.
and hardcore from this period is really not known so much. I think people are probably mad that they're introducing a little bit of melody here because there really is like
Yeah.
none on the previous ones. It's just raging full on,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's hardcore from this time is it's kind of like, look, it's more about that energy than the strengths of the
Yes.
songs and the musicianship. It's just we got a
Yeah.
vibe going, right?
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah. If the song is longer than a minute and 45 seconds, then they're out at that, back
yeah,
then.
yeah. What are you,
You
Emerson,
know,
Lake and Palmer now? Yeah, you know, it's crazy. But like, it's wild, like for to just experience like that level of closed mindedness because I like looking at this album in 2026. I'm like, this is not a huge like leap or shift from the previous records. It's like a few steps, you know. But
Yeah,
but but yeah, people are
it's
down
not
on
that
this one.
extreme.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, people, the way I saw some of the reviews is people are like, "Oh my God, man, they went this, like they were treating this like it was their version of the Black Album or something. Like they're like, "Oh
Yeah.
my God, I can't believe they went this direction with this." And I'm thinking like, "Man, this sounds like the kind of like the same, like you said, a proper crossover album. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, like a DRI, kind of album." And that's my cat.
Oh,
Okay.
hello, cat. It's okay. It's all right.
Yeah. We had an earthquake in the Reno area
Oh,
yesterday, and
whoa.
he's just been a little jumpy. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's wild.
Yeah.
Everything okay out
Um,
there?
oh yeah, 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 we're good.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Just
Dang.
animals get more worked up over that kind of stuff more than we do.
Yeah. I mean, it's like they can sense it. It's so wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they're more
But
connected to the earth than us. But yeah.
yeah, but yeah, you know what? The funny thing is, it made me listen to this album. It made me listen to "Speak Your Piece" too, because I haven't listened to that in a long time, and that's the one after "Stream of
Yeah.
Consciousness."
Yeah. I haven't revisited that one yet. I think that might have
Yeah.
been like the first record I heard by them. So, but
Mm,
it's my understanding that one leans a little more into heavy metal, a little more in melody. But
mm,
uh, but um,
yes.
uh, I'll be interested to be talking about that in the future. But no, I
Mm,
I like this a lot, and there were some great songs in there. I think "Circus of Fools" was a great song. Hey, anytime you're taking down religion, right on. Uh, "See Through You," I thought "Just Went Black" was really interesting. It was again slowing it down, and like I'm sure the haters on this album dislike that song, but I thought that was like a breath of fresh air, you know. Um, and just a really cool bass line on the song "Drift." Like that a lot. It was just super good.
yes, that was
Yeah.
one of mine. So I'm a bassist, so
Oh,
"Drift" was listed as one of my favorite ones. Yeah.
nice. Yeah. What were some of
Yeah.
your others on the album?
"Aggravated," "Last Laugh," and "Altered Visions."
Yeah, all great stuff. I can't deny that.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm,
but yeah. Um, I want to remind folks, members of Cryptic Slaughter in their new band Subversion Trigger will be playing at the Soldiers of Steel Festival this August in Seattle. Go to soldiersofsteel.com right now and get your tickets. That's gonna be dope, son. So,
mm,
um, but and Subversion Trigger only have a 15-minute EP, so their set is probably going to
yeah,
be chock full of Cryptic Slaughter songs. So that's going to be great. Um, but yeah,
that's cool.
I thought this was cool, and I think this was a little more palatable, just as like of a record. I liked the previous two, but those were just kind of like just pure speed and anger, and it was nice to like, oh, slow it down a little bit, have some more melody, and like, oh, I can appreciate like the message behind a lot of these songs a little more, because it's the intensity is dialed back just a little, just enough, gang, you know. So, but yeah, did you have any more thoughts on this one, Matt?
No, no, just that I like again. I thought it was ahead of its time. That's the only thing I would put it. It's the Star Trek Deep Space Nine of the Cryptic Slaughter discography.
I like that, and because yeah, like that's a good analogy because that one I think a lot of people didn't know how to feel about. I think a lot of people like
Yeah.
gave up on that one pretty early, and that ends up being like a lot of folks' favorite Star Trek. So,
Yes, it's mine.
well, there you go. See?
Yeah, and the thing is that it actually was a streamer's show before streaming was a thing. It was like a binging show before binging was a thing. The showrunner for so when they started season 2 of that show. The showrunner did a 3-part episode to open season 2. This is 1995. There's no
Wow.
DVR. There's no
That's
streaming,
wow.
and he was. I remember watching this interview with him. He was saying people were telling me, "You're crazy. No one's ever going to watch all 3 parts. They're not going to know what's going on." And yet, little did he know, 30 years later, now it's like one of the most binged Star Trek shows in the whole catalog. And that's
Sure.
kind of what I mean by this is when I listen to it is like, man, if I was listening to Cryptic Slaughter's discography the first time, I would probably pick that one over Convicted or Money Talks, just because the first two, I would listen to them and think to myself, oh, okay, so this is just each song is a minute and 45 seconds of just like pure adrenaline just smeared all over the walls.
Yeah,
Whereas like the third one actually is like a proper like thrash metal record.
yeah. But and you're right. And I think it kind of speaks to the mindedness and the scene division type of stuff that exists even today of like, oh, I don't want a trace of punk in my heavy metal, or I don't want a trace of heavy metal in my punk. And I'm like, no, man, I want my chocolate and my peanut butter.
Yeah.
I dig it, and I like the various permutations of where the two genres blend. And I think that's for a thrash metal fan, it's weird to be anti-punk, you know?
And I think that's the future too. So like a lot of my favorite more modern things are like where the line between thrash and death metal ends, or where the line between hardcore punk and thrash metal, is, or where the line between death metal or brutal death metal is. Like that's
Sure.
where I'm finding myself landing a lot for stuff that I like. I think it's because everything else has been done before, and
Yeah.
so people are starting to experiment right on the border. You think like Demolition Hammer, like back in its day,
Yeah. They were right on the edge of death
was
metal. Yeah.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
like back then you were either Exodus or you were Benediction, and there was kind
Right.
of like nothing in the middle. And then Demolition Hammer was like, let's do both.
Yeah, and I love that.
You know,
And that's one of I want to talk about that. Like I that's why I love like the the Ed Repka Dan Seagrave album cover era of death metal because there's so much
yeah,
like blurred line of like, is this extreme thrash or is this death metal? Or just like keeping thrashiness in death metal. Like that's what holds my attention, you know? Um,
mm,
so I love that. And speaking of like, like to like bands walking that line, I think that's you're right. I think that's some of the most interesting stuff going now. I mean, like I'm going to see Drain tonight, and it's like you could call them
yeah,
hardcore, you could call them thrash metal, you could call them crossover, and all tags are applicable, you know?
yes,
And like they're not afraid to like, hey, they on like their not their current album, but their last album, there's like a hip hop interlude. Like I wouldn't have
mm,
done that, but I'm like, whatever. Like a
yeah,
bold choice, and it's like, remember Anthrax did that too, and they're still around, so um,
mm.
or did things like that. Um,
That's going to be a fun show, by the way, the Drain show. I mean, I've never seen Drain live, but
yeah.
I've seen Power Trip live,
Yeah.
and they're another one of those bands that kind of mixes hardcore and thrash metal.
Oh my God.
Um, and so there was a lot of here's what I would say. There was a lot of arguing about whether there was to be a traditional circle pit with everybody or everyone was kind of on their own hardcore dancing. So it was
Yeah.
a lot of like as soon as the two steppers would come out, the
Mm,
thrash metal kind of push moshers would be like, "Nope, we're not going to do that. Let's get a circle pit going." And
yeah.
then like it was very back and forth. It was kind of fun to watch, to be
Yeah.
honest.
But see, that's
So I would expect
exciting.
that.
That's really
Yeah,
exciting. And
it's interesting.
yeah, I mean, that I think really echoes like the original crossover moment in the 80s where you've seen the flyer where it's like Death Angel, DRI, Dark Angel, Anthrax, Possessed on the same bill, Suicidal.
Yep.
And I've heard stories where like, yeah, people got their legs broke and like I don't want that to happen to anybody, but like, you know, crazy shit. And like, I'll go to hardcore shows in Portland, and I'm like, the only thing that bums me out about the hardcore scene is the karate and the two step, and I think it's kind of dumb. But I don't
Yeah,
go into
it's not my
somebody.
thing either.
I don't like it. I'm like, just run in a circle, man. This is fun. I don't want to get
Yeah.
kicked. I don't want to get kicked in the
Yeah.
face. Dude.
Hmm.
But part of me that's like old man shit. But also it's like I don't go and I don't bitch when I go there because it's like I don't go into somebody else's house and tell them how to live. There's we got an all ages
Yeah.
venue here that puts on all ages hardcore shows all the time. I don't say shit about the hardcore dancing. I stand on the side of the stage and
Yeah.
I film and I'm like, hey, you do you guys. I like the energy
Yeah.
and that's what I'm here for. Okay. And and as we are going to have another big crossover thing. It's we're on the cusp of
Yeah.
it. And we're going to have that battle. Is it going to be the circle pit or is it going to be the hardcore dancing? And who knows? We'll see. I mean, I think
Yeah.
as
Well,
it,
we were all young at one point. You know what I
yeah,
mean? That's the way I would put it. And so it's I used to think that all those guys that did all the crowd killing and stuff were funny and cool and stuff like that. And then I got into my 20s. I started learning a little bit of pit etiquette, and um, then it became a more controlled chaos in
yeah,
the sense of fun.
yeah, uh,
Where there's rules.
yeah. And I tell you, like crowd killing, that pisses me off more than the hardcore dancing because it's you're going
Mm.
out of your way to ruin somebody else's fun, you know.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm like, why? Why? We're all just
Well, yeah,
we're all spent our
that's
hard-earned
the up and
money.
down of our yeah,
Yeah,
that's the up and down of all ages shows. That's just the up and down of all ages shows is like
yeah,
because the 17-year-olds, you know what I mean? They're still learning.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. But it's like it's not the kids that I see doing that is the thing, the crowd
mm,
killing. You know,
oh yeah,
yeah. It's I'll see guys, close to 30, and like that's their
oof,
go-to move. And I'm like, fuck you,
man.
man. No.
Yeah, I mean, at least when you're young, you have an excuse because you're an idiot. But yeah, when you're an
Yeah,
adult,
but yeah, no, this it just means you're an asshole.
yeah,
So
exactly.
again, I don't go to a hardcore space and bitch about the karate because I'm like, you know what? This isn't my
Yeah,
house. Um,
yeah,
uh, Even though inwardly I'm like, I just don't like it. Come on, gang, it's so much fun to run in a circle. I love
yeah,
doing laps.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Um,
it's more collaborative. It's a lot more
yeah.
collaborative. Like I have just like I have gone to shows and just like raged with people for like 3 hours and been like, "Oh man, you're the coolest," and then just go our separate ways, and then I'll see you at the next one. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Whereas I feel like when you're hardcore dancing, it's like you're just kind of making a little mosh pit on your own that no one else is invited to,
Yeah.
and it's like that to me is that's not what the spirit of it is.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. And I don't need to bitch about hardcore dancing because I think it's going to fade as this crossover thing grows, and it's going to. So, because the collaborative thing, as it becomes more of two scenes coming together, we're going to meet in the middle, like in the old days. I mean, it's like, and the circle pit we borrowed from the original hardcore scene. So, like, dude,
yes.
yeah. So we'll all get there. Um,
Yeah.
so, but I think this is probably a good point to wrap here. Matt, I want to thank you
Yeah.
again for joining me. This has been a great conversation. And tell people where they can find you and all your stuff, and then
Oh,
we'll wrap.
yeah. Yeah, so Thrashmania, I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, and I'm on TikTok.
There you go. Follow Thrash Mania.
Yeah.
Tons of great thrash metal and death metal recommendations. If you're looking to go deeper, Thrash Mania is a great resource, folks. Dig it.
Yep.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching, and good night. Thanks, Matt.
Yep.